What's up, guys? Welcome back to this week's update on the Bitcoin market. There's been a little relief in the market, and we're going to break down exactly what's happening. Don't forget that these weekly updates are brought to you by FTX. Click on the link in the description to learn more. Let's jump in and see what happened in the past week. First, if we take a look, Bitcoin now trading just below $24,000. Then if we take a look at the Bitcoin network itself, we can see that Bitcoin's market cap, about $450 billion. We have the inflation rate at 1.76%, much lower than the 8.5% in the US dollar system. 90% of Bitcoin has been issued into the circulating supply, and the real exchange volume in the last 24 hours up significantly, now over $26 billion. We know that miners in the last 24 hours have been paid $21.8 million, and GBTC is at a discount of 24.5%. Then Bitcoin's still about 65% below its all-time high of $69,000 back from November of 2021. If we take a look at Bitcoin versus gold in the S&P 500, Bitcoin is down nearly 50% over the last year. But in a 2 to 10 year time period, Bitcoin absolutely destroying the performance of both gold and the S&P. Then we can take a look at Bitcoin's price closing history, $23,800. Bitcoin has only traded above this level for 533 days of its lifetime, which means that on 89% of Bitcoin's life, if you bought the asset and held till today, you would be in profit. Next up, we can take a look at Bitcoin versus gold, S&P 500, NASDAQ, and TLT. We see that the compound annual growth rate of Bitcoin at 112% over the last 10 years is drastically higher than anything else. And then, of course, if we take a look at the 5-year Sharpe ratio coming in just below 1, that means if you took the asset and you put it into a portfolio of non-correlated assets, Bitcoin would have a positive impact. While the network stats are encouraging, this week, we're going to do something a little bit different. There are two main events that have occurred that I think are important to call out. The first is that the macro environment is in a very interesting place. This past week, we got the inflation reading, and it came in at 8.5%. That's down from the prior month of 9.1%. But remember, that headline CPI number, that is simply the year-over-year change. What we saw on a month-to-month basis was we were flat. That's good news that inflation wasn't accelerating, but it still is not good news that inflation is not necessarily coming down. We are getting into a base effect because last year in June, July, and through the end of 2021, inflation went very high. It was between 5 and 7%. So now as we see readings in the 8.5% range, this is compounded year after year of very high inflation. That does not spell any sort of good news for the American consumer. Not only are we getting a macro situation that continues to be perplexing, but also we saw a very huge piece of news coming from Wall Street. Blackrock, the world's largest asset manager, they last week announced that they were going to come in and do a partnership with Coinbase, publicly traded large US brand. But now BlackRock taking it a step further, and they have announced that they have a private trust that's been set up to allow their institutional clients to begin to buy Bitcoin. What's interesting about this is that BlackRock has trillions of dollars under management, and they have trillions of dollars in ETFs. And if they're continuing to see demand from their institutional clients for Bitcoin, my guess is that we're about to watch BlackRock launch the private trust, get their institutional clients exposure to Bitcoin. They eventually will take that private trust, they'll put it into the public market, similar to Grayscale's GBTC. And then BlackRock is going to lobby the SEC to approve the Bitcoin trust being converted to an ETF. This is exactly what Grayscale's been trying to do. But now we have a competition. We have BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager in the traditional world, going up against Grayscale, the world's largest asset manager in the new digital system. That is a script that is written for a movie. As we continue to look at the Bitcoin market, it seems that the market is determining there's a higher and higher probability that we probably saw the bottom somewhere in that $17,000 range. That doesn't guarantee that that's what happened, but the market seems to be pricing in a lot more optimism than they were just a few weeks ago. Bitcoin trading between $22,000 and $25,000 ends up being pretty healthy. If we continue to go sideways here, there seems to be on-chain metrics that suggest that many people just continue to dollar cost average into the digital currency. Ultimately, what will determine Bitcoin's direction, up or down, over the coming weeks is going to be the Federal Reserve. If the Fed continues to tighten financial conditions, that will put a lot of pressure on many investors, and it will push the US economy further into a recession. But if the Fed simply pauses all of that tightening, or if they end up pivoting before the end of the year, including before the midterm elections, then that would be a bullish signal, and all assets, including stocks and Bitcoin, are likely to recover. As we continue to push towards the end of the year and into those midterm elections, it's important that you watch the Federal Reserve. The Fed is in control. It's all one big trade. And as the saying goes, don't fight the Fed. Bitcoin continues to hold up decently well in the last few weeks, given the macro drawdown of 70%. But the question will become, as we go deeper and deeper into a recession, this is Bitcoin's first recession. How will it handle all the pressure? So far, it's been fascinating to watch. Something tells me it will only get more interesting. I hope that you are enjoying these weekly updates. Remember, they are brought to you by FTX. If you'd like to buy Bitcoin, you can go to FTX and get cheaper fees than most of their competitors, sometimes as much as 85% cheaper than those competitors. Also, they've introduced digital stock trading, where you can go buy various stocks with no transaction fees and no payment for order flow, so you get better pricing. FTX continues to innovate in financial markets, and I'm proud that they sponsor these weekly updates. If you want to support them, go click on the link in the description and open up an FTX account today. All right, that's it for this week. I will see you all next Saturday.